What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Timonspodcast. I'm your host, Timon. This is my podcast. Couple quick business things for you. First, check us out on YouTube. Timonspodcast on YouTube. Subscriber count is growing. There's videos for most of my podcasts now, so that's kind of cool. Also, a couple of people have reached out about sponsoring, so I just want to let you know sponsoring is open. If you want to sponsor the podcast, email me at timonspodcast@gmail.com. Give you deets, all that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter. And like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Okay, now that the business is out of the way, let me intro. Let me welcome you.
All right.
Jose, dude, thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a little chilly in the basement, but hey.
Yeah. I have a heater, but then it sounds bad on the pod. It's like, then you hear the... I can't.
No, I'll be okay.
Yeah, I know. It's someday I'll upgrade. What do you think of this?
I do like it.
Have you had this before?
No, not really.
Guys, for those not watching a YouTube video, Brewdog Elvis Juice, grapefruit infused IPA. That's what we're drinking today.
Infused.
If you want more, you let me know. I got a whole fridge full. That's the best thing about this podcast.
Yeah, I think if I have two of this, I'll feel a little warmer.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, it's. I was thinking about you, and I'm like, you know what? I need to get Jose on because we've been friends for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I've been interviewing a lot of different people in Goshen. I love talking to people in Goshen, and we've been friends in Goshen. So I'm like, all right, let's get Jose on.
All right.
Yeah. So why don't you let everyone know who you are, and just give them a little like background on you, so people who don't know you have a little bit better idea who you are.
Sure. I always like to tell people that I was born in Mexico City.
Okay.
I was born in Mexico City, and my parents wanted to go to a smaller town. Mexico City has about 22 million people. And so we decided to move away from the big city to a smaller town. So we ended up in Chicago. Yeah. So in 1980, when I was 10 years old, my parents decided, hey, we're going to Chicago. And at first, I just didn't want to, because I'm 10 years old. If you think about when you were 10 years old,
that's a huge change.
You're preteen, right? Yeah. And to someone tell you, your parents saying, we're moving out of town, it's a big deal. But then when you realize you're moving to another country,
it's even bigger.
It is a bit bigger. And so my parents are like, yeah, let's, we want a better life, this and that. And none of my siblings wanted to come. I have two older brothers, a brother and a sister, and then I'm the middle child, and then a younger brother. My younger brother was like, whatever. He was 8 years old, and
he
was like,
he
whatever.
Couldn't make any decisions. He just had to go with the flow.
He was going to, yeah. Me, on the other hand, is like, man, I'm going to miss my friends. Jose Montezuma, if I have no idea if he's ever going to listen, but he was my buddy back then when I was 10 years old, living in Mexico City. And so we moved. I didn't struggle with a lot of cultural, people ask me all the time.
Yeah.
You just struggle with
culture shock?
Culture shock? Not really. I mean, Chicago is a very diverse community, and the roads are very north, south, east, west.
Right.
Very easy city to navigate. At the age of 10, I was navigating Mexico City. I was getting on buses,
Wow.
So you can imagine coming to Chicago and it's like, oh, this is so easy.
Yeah, kind of similar.
Very, it's smaller.
Maybe even easier.
Easier because, in Mexico City, the main roads, they could go straight for a while, but then they curve.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot you can easily get lost. It's a big city, you can easily get lost.
You're going north 1 second and then west the next, and then...
Yeah, exactly.
Knows, right?
then you don't
upside down.
Yeah. And so it was okay. The language thing, it was a problem.
Yeah.
But there's a huge Latino community in Chicago, and there's a lot of immigrants from all over.
Yeah.
So I did not feel out of place necessarily.
Yeah.
So I adjusted pretty fast. In Mexico City, you watch a lot of American shows. You know?
Okay. So you knew pretty well.
Pretty well. You watch the Super Bowl. My parents watched the Steelers in the 70s, you know, and so watch baseball and the movies and
Cartoons, I bet.
Cartoons, you name it. Live It to Beaver was in Spanish. So
No way.
just to give you an idea.
No way.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Was it Spanish subtitles or was it dubbed?
Dubbed.
Spanish? Okay.
Dubbed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And in fact, you know, Mexico City and Mexicans in general are very diverse people, like in terms of ethnicity and the way they look and so on.
Yeah.
So you would see shows made in America, and then there were the people would be speaking in Spanish, you know, and so it would take you a while. And as a child, you don't know how to distinguish. It would take a little, and the changing into Spanish was well done.
right.
That you
almost-
couldn't tell with the movement of the mouth
Right.
that they were originally in a different language, to the point that you would think they were made in Mexico.
Wow.
You really don't know. As a kid, you don't know how to distinguish unless somebody tells you. And so when I showed up to America, I was very familiar with football, American football. When I was in high school, that's what I said to my parents, like, I'm going to play baseball, football, and basketball.
Really?
I think in Chicago, I was like, I want to do that. But unfortunately, we moved to the south side of Chicago.
Okay.
I was able to play football, made the football team as a freshman, and also play baseball. But basketball was the king, you know.
Yeah.
And I tried to make it to the team, but never did.
Really?
Never did. It was the players. Most of the people knew how to play basketball, and they're way ahead of me.
Yeah, and they've been playing since they're probably super young.
Super young.
Training camps and all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, kids would be playing basketball all summer, you know, and me, I was playing soccer. I was more into the arts, really.
Yeah.
Originally, I wanted to study the arts, visual arts. I took some art classes at the Art Institute when I was in high school.
No way.
Yeah, and then people said, "Well, why not an architect?" And in Chicago, of course, you know, when you see the buildings, and the great buildings all over downtown
Yeah.
Chicago, you do fall in love with the architect and
Yeah.
the buildings.
How things are laid out, and you can see
Yeah.
it, you physically see it.
Right.
Right. It's way different than just like reading about it in a book. You're looking at how they put this together.
Right. And, you know, and they have great schools. You know, the University of Illinois at Chicago, UIC, is a very good school for architect. And so I thought about it. I wanted to do that, but my family joined the Mennonite Church,
Ah, okay.
and that's what brought me to Goshen. My older brother went to Southern Illinois University
Okay.
to be an electric engineer. My sister went to a community college in Chicago, and my parents were like, well, we're Mennonites now. There's a Mennonite college. Because a lot of Irish people in Chicago were like, we're going to Notre Dame. Notre Dame was the place for most Irish Americans, right? So,
Yeah.
but I had no idea that Mennonites had colleges and universities
okay.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, you know, the Catholic Church has good universities, even in Chicago, like Loyola.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up coming to Goshen. I was recruited, and my parents came to see the college with me. and we realized it's only 2 hours away.
Yeah, pretty close.
It's pretty close. And then I came to Goshen, which is my first culture shock.
That's when it set in, huh?
That's when it set in.
That's wild.
You're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, you're in Goshen. Yeah, that's wild. What? When did your parents become Mennonites? Like, was it while you were in high school? Or
Yeah, when I was in high school. So we arrived in 1980, and in 1985, my parents joined the Mennonite Church.
Wow, were you Catholic before that?
Yeah, see, that's an interesting story because my parents grew up Catholic,
Okay.
but when they I guess got involved, became adults and became involved in the community, they learned about Marxism and humanism and all that, and so then they realized that the Catholic Church, as they knew it, was not really helping them meet God.
Mm.
The mass, back then in the 50s and 60s, it was done in Latin.
Okay.
You were not allowed to read the scriptures back then as a Catholic because it's, a no-no. And so, but then the church wanted money. And so they became disillusioned.
Yeah.
And they left the church.
Okay, that makes sense.
So when I arrived, when I was born, with my siblings, they were not going to church. In fact, they were more agnostic,
Yeah.
but they call themselves atheists because they didn't know the difference.
Right. There wasn't really a term there at that time.
Right.
Maybe, but a lot more people are atheists then. I think now it's kind of like more people are agnostic.
Right.
That's my perception. I could be wrong, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I think like my mom had faith in something, but it was not in the Catholic Church, and it was not in the Judeo-Christian God as she knew it.
Right.
Very limited understanding of what that was.
Right. Well, if you can't read the Bible too,
Exactly.
It's like, what do I even believe? I'm just going here because my parents go here. It's just tradition at this point. Yeah, that makes sense.
Full of saints, a lot of different saints.
Yeah.
And then the Virgin Mary, it's almost like a god.
Yeah.
It's a female god image.
Yeah.
And so it's, yeah. So, yeah, back in 1985, my parents, my mom was sick of cancer. And so interesting because the doctor, we had a doctor, Mexican-American, spoke Spanish. And the doctor said to my dad back in 84, 85, your wife is going to most likely not make it.
Mm.
And you got a house full of teenagers.
Yeah.
So I was like 13, 14 years old. And so my younger son was like, my younger brother was 12 or 13, kind of that age. And my sister was 2 years older. My brother was 4 years older. Just about to go to college.
Right.
And so the doctor said, hey, you're going to need a support system. You need to like talk to your friends. Do you have any family? And we didn't. I mean, we had distant cousins, but not really. There was one uncle. My dad's brother was also living in Chicago. But as far as like
system, that's just
right.
an individual at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the doctor was the one that suggested, go to your priest, go somewhere, you're gonna have a crisis in your hand with all the, teenagers losing their mom. And so that's when my dad said to one of his coworkers, like, oh, this is happening. I don't know what to do. And of course, the coworker happened to be Mennonite and said, hey, just come to my church.
Wow.
And that's how we ended up going.
You got plugged in there.
Plug in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's what set you on this journey.
Exactly.
That's wild.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was that culture shock then like coming to Goshen?
Well, there was all kinds of different things. For example, I mean, things Goshen has changed a lot.
Yeah.
But back then in 1990, I graduated from high school. I went to a community college first because I was still undecided whether I wanted to get a Goshen. And I debated what I wanted to study, and you can't study architecture at Goshen College. So it was like, do I have to change my focus? What do I want to do? So it took me a little while to even accept the invitation and make the decision to come to Goshen College. It took me a little while, so it wasn't automatic. But when we visited, and this is how ignorant we were, we just didn't know. We saw buggies and the Amish riding their little buggies. And so we did what a lot of tourists do. We took our cameras out and started taking pictures.
Yeah.
Later, I realized that was a no-no, but
Yeah, stealing their souls.
stealing their souls. But it was a lot of. Back then, there were very few Latinos. Like, you can count in your hand the number of families.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And a lot of the Latino families were connected to Goshen College, for example.
Yeah.
There was one Hispanic Mennonite church in town. But the shocking piece was a combination of different things. We had no public transportation. There was no diversity. I felt like I was being punished. I had to live on campus. I didn't have a vehicle, no freedom.
Yeah.
There was farms around Goshen College, so the stink of manure was heavy. And on a cloudy nights, it was stinking dark, like scary dark. You think about being in Mexico City, city full of lights, and in Chicago full of lights, you don't see darkness necessarily, complete darkness.
Right.
Until you go into the countryside on a cloudy night when you can't see any stars or the moon.
Yeah.
It was scary, and it was scary for a number of reasons because you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, but also the stories that you would hear about Indiana. I remember one of my friends, because we ended up going to Indianapolis at one point before coming to Goshen College, and I think it was a church thing. I can't remember. And my friends in Chicago is like, "Don't you dare stop at little towns."
Yeah.
And so it's like,
it's not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a reputation that colored people just don't stop in little towns across the Midwest, especially in Indiana. And when you learn that, this is one of the biggest places where the KKK used to be.
Started here.
Started here, yeah. So that was a little bit of a culture shock, not having the freedom to move around, not the freedom to go to see a movie, very few TV stations, if any.
Right.
And nobody could spell your name, pronounce your name.
Yeah.
I remember people are going to hate me from Goshen College. But
do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
When you see professors, you think, well, they're professors, right? They have a master's or a PhD.
Yeah.
And unable to, spell your name, like Jose, J-O-Z, you wonder, where am I? It's such a common day.
Where they do it, yeah. Oh.
They spell it hose. I'm not H-O-S-E. What? I'm not a hose. How many degrees do you have? There's San Jose, California. There's, it's not like Jose, the name, is such a foreign thing in America.
No, it's
I don't think.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I guess I can't really speak to that because I'm a lot younger. And growing up in Goshen, there was Jose's all the time. I met so many Jose's growing up. So it was something that was part of my life. But yeah, to think like, yeah, it's just, that's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird to think about that.
Yeah. So it's like, where am I?
Yeah.
You know?
In the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere. And people think that I was there to play soccer.
Oh, really?
Some people were like, do you have a sports scholarship? Like, no. The same thing they did with African Americans.
Really?
They thought they were there just to play sports, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Goshen College has changed a lot since then, too. I hope, maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, they have. I remember going to the cafeteria for dinner, and the guy in front of me turned around. That's kind of like the first weeks I was there, and then I was like, maybe I should just go home.
Yeah.
He turns around and looks at me, and obviously look at me and seeing that I didn't belong. He's like, where are you from? What country were you born? Not even hearing me, I could have been a Mexican American. I could be a U.S. citizen. I could be, but he just made that
assumption
right there. And then when I said, well, I was born in Mexico City. I grew up in Chicago. Then he said, so you speak Mexican? And I'm like, what? Mexican? Like, that's not a language. Yeah. It's a Spanish, buddy. Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh. I it's kind of funny thinking back at those days, because Goshen College has changed a lot.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's the dean of students, Gilberto Perez, so.
He knows probably, is it a he or she? He knows probably how to spell Jose.
Yeah.
I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't know. They know now.
Yeah. Were you there for 2 years or?
Three.
Okay. Yeah. And what'd you go for?
Bible and religion.
Okay.
Ministry. Yep.
Yeah. Very nice. And so then what'd you do after college? Was it, I'm assuming you stayed in Goshen.
No.
Okay.
No, actually, I went to seminary.
No way. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. My mom actually passed away when I was a college student in 1992.
Okay.
And it was, like I said, I grew up very ignorant about the scriptures because my parents were not allowed to read it growing up. So when we joined the Mennonite Church, when we really actually read the Bible and really asked the question, was like, what is this God about, right? And so when I came to Goshen College, it was about that. It was a journey of finding out, who was God, what's going on here. And so when I graduated from Goshen College, even though I had a better understanding of the scriptures, I was not at all happy, like content. Like, I need to know more. This is, what do you mean? The Bible was written in Greek and Hebrew. What do you mean the Septuagint it's a Greek version of the Old Testament?
Right.
And so I had more questions than answers.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that I wanted to go to seminary is to learn more. Not necessarily the intention of becoming a minister, but the intentions originally was just to get to know more. In fact, I always kind of fell in love with theology, and I wanted to continue study theology after seminary, but, a lot of things happen.
Right.
And just
shift and change in life.
Shift and change, yeah.
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 Yeah. Where'd you go to seminary at?
So I didn't want to go to AMBS, right? Because it was like...
That's Elkhart, right?
That's Elkhart, right? Yeah. So it's like Goshen, Elkhart, it's kind of too close, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You need to change the scenery.
Exactly. I was ready to leave Goshen. It's like... And a lot of people, I was not the only one, man, but a lot of people who graduated from college, a lot of minorities, people of color, back then was like, I'm leaving Goshen, I'm not coming back. It's like it was not a good experience for a lot of reasons. Not necessarily because we got a bad education. The education level was top notch.
Yeah.
It was the
culture.
environment.
Yeah.
Environment was not at all there. So, people in the Mennonite world said you should try Eastern Mennonite University. It's in the Shenandoah Valley.
Oh, okay.
And I started asking questions, and I started seeing pictures, and I was like, yeah, that's the place I want to go.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful campus in the Shenandoah Valley in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Okay.
And that's a very nice place, full of mountains.
Oh, yeah.
So you can imagine, growing up in Chicago and Goshen and then going to the Shenandoah Valley. I mean, in Mexico City, it's surrounded by mountains, and I miss that.
Yeah.
Chicago, the Midwest,
So
too flat.
It's so flat. Yeah.
Yep. So I ended up going there. Then I got homesick. Probably because I missed my mom or my community, family. But I ended up finishing at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School.
It's in Chicago?
In Deerfield, Illinois.
Yeah.
Suburb of Chicago, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Then how'd you get back to Goshen?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
How's that? 'Cause, you go all the way back to Chicago. What brought you back to Goshen then?
Right. Yeah, that's another story, a very interesting story. But so in the process of after seminary, I was like, oh, what do I do? Do I go get a PhD? Do I enter work in the church? In the process in the seminary, there was a lot of people telling me that I have a pastoral heart, and that phrase kind of marked me. Like, you do well in ministry. And people assumed that I was going to go to ministry because I was in seminary.
Right.
I ended up getting a Master's of Divinity because I knew there was the most difficult masters, and I could usually can go into a PhD program. But so I was like, what do I do? And so I knew that I was like, inexperienced. So I went to high school, college, seminary, but I had not worked at all. Like, not really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like a job.
like a real job.
Right. Clock in at 8, get done in 5, right? Yeah.
Right. So I was like, okay. So there were a lot of churches, both from the Mennonite Church and from the Evangelical Free Churches of America, which is the denomination connected to Trinity Evangelical Divinity School, were calling my name. There was churches in Florida that were saying, hey, you're bilingual, you're bicultural, we need you, come down. But I ended up going to McAllen, Texas, to pastor a Mennonite church, and reconnected with a person from Goshen College. We got married. We had 2 kids, a boy and a girl. Shout out to Danny and Christina.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then my wife, then her parents were ill. She's originally from Illinois. And by then, when we had our kids, we eventually ended up in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
Long story. But we ended up in Houston, Texas. Her parents were not doing well. I knew that her dad was in bad shape. I mean, it was very...
You saw the writing on the wall.
We saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Houston is far away.
Yeah.
And so it's like, let's be closer to family. I mean, my siblings were living in the area. My sister still lives in Highland, Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah, Highland.
Around there.
But it's Highland Park is a city in Illinois, but she was in Highland, Indiana.
Which is like right across the border, right? Or not super far? Yeah.
Yep. So we ended up deciding where do we want to move to. And by then, there were a lot of churches in Goshen that were looking for Latino leadership.
Yeah.
And so I was supposed to be half-time pastoring and then continue studying. I was going to jump into a doctoral program and do other things. But we chose Goshen because it was close to Chicago. It was a familiar town. We knew that the city had changed. It was different. There were a lot of more Latinos. There was more diversity. It had issues.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of cities around. I mean, there was no perfect place. But that's what brought us back to Goshen. We moved back in 2008.
Oh.
Yeah, we bought a house, and within a few months, it was almost $50,000 less. Worth, yeah.
Yeah. That's right when the crash happened.
We bought the house at the worst time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and paid too much, way too much, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And then did things not work out with the church and stuff, or did you do the halftime study?
Yeah, a lot of other things happen. Personally, our marriage struggle.
Yeah.
Very much. I hate to be so negative because there were so many good things.
Yeah.
But from day one, I think we forced things.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back and, if I'm honest with myself, I think we forced things. Yeah. And I still remember going to counseling before getting married, breaking up the relationship before we got married, but decided to go.
Keep it going
anyway.
Yeah.
Very, I don't know, inexperience, not really knowing what marriage was really about. I mean, you can read things and all this stuff.
You don't know until you're in it.
Yeah. And ignoring red flags.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. Tell my kids, tell the young people, don't ever ignore red flags.
They become very real.
They become very real.
You can't ignore them later.
Yeah.
If you ignore them now, you will deal with them later, right?
Yeah. And you cannot think, things are going to get better. This person is going to change.
No, that's not how it goes.
Yeah. You're blinded by the idea of being married, the idea of having kids or having a family. Mm-hmm. You're blinded by love. You wanting to have a family because that's what people tell you have to do.
Yeah. It's the next step. You went to college. Now you get a family. Your life's going to be leave it to Beaver. You're totally fine, right? Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're going to live the perfect life. And what could go wrong? 2 Mennonites.
Right. What could go wrong? Yeah.
What could go wrong? 2 faithful Christians.
Yeah. Oh, my word. So, yeah. So things probably started changing. But have you stayed in Goshen since 2008?
Yeah.
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 Goshen has been, if I think about it and think about the numbers, probably the longest place I've ever lived. Mm. I moved from Mexico City at the age of 10. I moved to college in 92.
18 then, right? So 8 years and 10 in Mexico, 8 in Chicago, 4 you said you went to community college for a little bit too, right?
Yeah. A year.
3 years here, been back since 2008. Yeah, you've been here for a while then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Houston, Texas. Wow. So you've been all over the place too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've traveled. That's one of the things that I enjoy working for the church. Excuse me, I did a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
And in Houston, I've been extremely lucky. I mean, I'm blessed. You call it blessing. You call it lucky. My life has been a roller coaster and a half. I tell people I have lived a year and a half a year and a half, a life and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, an entire life and then some. You know, I'm 52 years old, and if I go today, I'm like, yeah, I lived.
That's cool.
Yeah. Just give you an idea, you know, when I was in Houston, it was kind of right after 9/11.
Okay.
And then there was a lot of dialogue of reconciliation between religion and the question of how religion plays a part in what we do, and how toxic a religion can become.
Right. When you see
any religion,
yeah. Oh yeah, historically
you
see that over and over. But then you are physically seeing it manifest in 9/11.
Correct.
And you're like, whoa, we got to deal with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the University of, Rice University in Houston had somewhat of an ecumenical meetings. And so Muslim, Jews, Christians got together and began the process of what do we do? How do we approach each other, and how we learn from each other, and how to learn to, instead of becoming angry and strangers, how do we get to know each other? And so the Muslim community said we need to talk. And so I didn't know this until we lived in Houston, but there was a big Jewish community there. And so they did, you know, they put money, you know, they both the Muslims and Jews put a lot of money into this process of dialogue. They put their money where their mouths were, you know, kind of thing. And they invited a bunch of us, and they invited me because I was part of the Peace Church, you know, being Mennonite.
Right.
And so I remember Muslims from Turkey really liking what I was saying, you know, really liking what I was saying. And they came to the church. They invited me to many activities, and they said, hey, we're going to take church leaders to Turkey, and we're going to do them a tour.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, for a week and a half. And it's like, well, how much is it? They're like, are you kidding me? Nothing. Yeah, they're like, we want to host you guys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so it's like, all right, I'll do it. Well, you know,
Yeah.
I'll talk to the Houston Mennonite Church, and then the leadership is like, no, go, get out of here. Like, this is a one life. Yeah,
once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, let's go. And, you know, I had no business being with those people, you know.
Yeah.
They're like rabbis who are, you know, super famous and experts at what they do. You have the bishop of the Methodist Church, you know, going, and then that's me. and then me. Hey.
How's it going? That's awesome.
But it was an amazing experience because we traveled to Istanbul, Ankara, and then we traveled to the east side, which is totally different. So on the one hand, in Turkey, you have Greece, which is super liberal, and on the other, you have Syria. Just to give you an
super conservative.
Yeah.
Wow.
Iran. So it's kind of like it's like Turkey is between two worlds, and Turkey is kind of very, you know, different. Ankara is the capital city, and it's right in the middle, and it really divides the east from the west. Even Turkey looks different from the east to the west. I got the opportunity to talk to the imam, the
head of the mosque.
Head of the mosque in Istanbul, or the Blue Mosque.
Oh, wow.
And we asked questions to him about world leaders. You know, things are like, I have no idea what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Like, why am I here? But I'm taking pictures, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, like the mom talks about when he met George W. Bush, when he met Bill Clinton, and talking about all the leaders that they have come to to the Blue Mosque, and the church, the big church, Sophia something, I can't remember now, but it's one of the oldest church buildings in the world. Beautiful building, kind of looks like the Blue Mosque, or the first version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a awesome time, and then it's just one thing that I could name that happened. They're like, I was born in Mexico City, in a very poor neighborhood next to a city garbage dump,
Yeah.
and then I found myself in the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, like, okay.
How does this happen?
How does that happen?
Yeah. You may be wondering how I got here. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild.
It is wild.
Yeah, you have lived a lifetime and a half. And you still got so much more life to live. That's the other thing.
Yeah, and so I'm like involved in things. It's one of the things that I feel like I'm here. I'm in Goshen. I'm gonna live my life the best that I can, doing the best things that doing things that are what I want to do, and do it the best way I can.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, anytime I'm out, I see you.
Yeah.
Right. You're in the community. I see you all the time, which is great, and you're very active in the community. I mean, that's how we met, was through a community. Well, through La Casa.
Mm-hmm.
You were working at La Casa, and for those who didn't know, Jose and I went to LA together.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the same thing, not the same story, but for me, it was like, hey, we're gonna send people to LA. Who wants to go? And I'm like, I'll go. And then they're like, no one signed up. Tim, and you go. And it was really cool. And we did a whole neighborhood association. We got the neighborhood association started here.
Yeah.
All that stuff, man. That's when we first met.
Yeah.
And you were just part of the community, meeting people, doing things, facilitating things,
Yep.
Bridging the gap between people.
Yeah.
In our neighborhood, this specific East Lincoln Crossing, it's very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice to have multilingual, someone who understands different things. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you've kind of moved and shaked throughout Goshen.
Yeah.
And I know you were a teacher for a while, right? You were at the Ivy Tech for a minute.
Yep. I worked for Ivy Tech for a while. I'm on my 5th year as Goshen Community School Board member.
Wow.
That I can't believe I ran again. It was crazy.
That was this year you got elected, right?
Yeah.
So you've been there for 5 years now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Has it changed at all? Or was this year like the hardest? Or no, I don't know. Since COVID, a lot of people are talking about school board stuff. I feel like that's the spotlight has been shined on the school boards. And so, I mean, I have no clue what's going on there, but
Yeah. No, it's definitely different. When I joined the school board 5 years ago, the board was thinking about doing some referendums.
okay.
And I thought that was the most difficult thing that I was going to do as a board member is, decide to go for those referendums. Because it was a lot of work. You had to convince the citizens of Goshen, and they had to vote for the referendums. And I thought that was
Tough.
But then the superintendent decided to retire. And then COVID hit, and then we had to hire a superintendent in 2020.
Oh, my word.
And then people became very passionate about COVID and unreasonable, and they became involved with the decisions that the board was making, and the people just didn't like some of the things. They were misinformed. A lot of them were just simply misinformed,
Yeah.
accusing us of child endangerment and neglect and all kinds of stuff because we wanted the kids to wear face masks. And then somewhere in the nation, people thought that the public schools were teaching critical race theory and wanting to ban books and change curriculums and felt like they needed to get involved to change school policy. But in reality, they really don't have a clue. And I know people are going to hear this, probably going to get upset.
Yeah.
And
Welcome to my life, man. Every time I do a podcast, someone's a little miffed at whatever. It doesn't matter.
okay,
Yeah. You can say what you want, man. It's totally fine. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, if I talk more about the people who are opposed to what we're doing and think we're messing things up, the reality, I think, is that they're just misinformed.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who are more vocal, they don't have kids in public schools.
Yeah.
They one person homeschooled their kids, never send them to public school, but yet feels like he knows exactly what's going on inside the public schools, but he really doesn't.
Yeah.
And so it has become tough. They're very unpolite and rude. The sad part for me has been, and I don't know why I thought it was going to be any different. It's people that claim to do this for in the name of God.
Hmm.
We are the immoral people, and they're like working for God and want things to change in public school because we're immoral. If we talk about inclusivity and the LGBTQ plus community, then it's evil, and it's just ugliness.
Hmm.
But in their eyes, they're doing what God wants them to do, and they speak for God and all that. And
It's while you're talking, all I'm thinking about is 9/11, right? You know how you were talking about how religions get radical at times?
Mhm.
I really have felt like 9/11 and COVID they're not the same, but they're big events that happen in our culture that's like pushed things for different things. So I wonder if it's just, as you're speaking, that's what I'm thinking.
yeah,
It's interesting.
yeah. Nothing like telling the guy with the Masters of Divinity that he's corrupt and evil.
Yeah. So you've been on for 5 years. So like, was that 2018 when you started?
Yep. Was
there any people like focused? You want another one?
Sure.
Yeah. You want the same one or you want something different?
Oh, give me the same one.
Okay. Was there any of this type of focus in 2018? Was there people kind of coming over and saying stuff in 2000 or no? Not at all.
No.
It was really when COVID hit is when it really started.
Yeah, and the president at that time allowed some ugly voices to be more present and vocal and loud. It kind of reminded me of the, and I know people are going to hate me for this.
Do it. Say it.
The Tea Party. You remember the Tea Party?
Yeah.
The radical
2000,
right?
That was probably like 2008.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
So they tried to overthrow the Republican Party and push for more radical ideas. Yeah, this group reminds me of the Tea Party. They don't want to call themselves Democrats or Republicans, but
surrounds.
yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah. The Tea Party. I remember that. Yeah, I definitely remember that. I was in high school at that time.
There you go.
Fascinating. Right when Obama came in. Yeah, dude, that's crazy. Man, I'm sorry that you have to. I mean, that's probably part of the position. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. It doesn't sound fun,
No.
right? You're approachable, easy to talk to. I can't imagine being screamed at because you're an evil person,
Right.
even though they don't have a relationship.
Right.
And I think, like you did in 9/11, having a conversation
Right.
with multiple parties is probably the best way to handle situations like that, or any situation. That's how people are able to relate, understand, and humanize each other instead of like demonize each other.
Right.
Yeah. What made you decide to do it another year to go this past election?
Do another term. I kind of felt like the people who were going to run against me were not the right people for Goshen Community Schools.
Gotcha.
And just the thought of some of those people being in leadership just scares me. And I thought about my daughter, who's a senior in high school, her friends, this community. It just felt like, no, I have to run again and be reelected because the alternative is not good for this community. Not that I'm the perfect candidate,
Yeah.
or that I feel like I'm better than somebody else, but my beliefs align a lot better with this community and the philosophy of Goshen Community Schools than some of theirs. If you don't believe in public schools, why are you running for
Yeah.
school board?
That's a good question.
Kind of thing. It's like, all right, the public schools were not good enough for your children, but now you want to make decisions for everybody else, children. Oh, just felt that I had to, and I want to, and I'm glad I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. What made you go in the first place in 2018? What made you decide to even run in the first place?
It was a combination of different things. I had the time.
Yeah.
My kids were in high school or about to enter high school. I really was happy with everything, the type of education and experience my kids were having. There were things that needed to change. Some of the beliefs of some administrators, and I don't mind saying this, and some teachers were troublesome for me. Like low expectations for some students just because. And so I just didn't like some of the things. They were doing a lot of good things. They still do. We still do great things.
Yeah.
But there were a few things that they were like, that doesn't sound right. And the superintendent and some board members approached me because I was involved. I mean, you know me, I was always involved with things.
Yeah.
And so they said, excuse me, you should consider it. And so I did.
Yeah. And ran.
Yeah.
And what was that like, running? Did you have to go to events and meetings? Were you door knocking and stuff like that, or was
The first time I was elected was not as bad as I thought. Nobody was running against me, so I was the only candidate. And the people that knew that I was running was like, whether they were Republicans or Democrats, they were like, you're the right person for the job.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think I'm still the right person for the job. The only thing that changed is some of the people that we were talking about.
Right. Well, the focus. It sounds like there was no focus on it at all, and now there's like a massive, almost magnifying glass on the school board.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
Do you? I mean, politics is crazy in and of itself. You know, right? I know when the last election happened, 2022. Yeah, I voted for you. And, it's just because I know who you are. I know the heart of you, It's like, Jose, such a good dude.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's tough. I wish people could have conversations. We've kind of gone into this, like, that's why I love podcasting, because you can sit and talk. But we've gone into this, like, social media world. Like, it's getting pushed into the real world now, where it's just, you got a minute, because that's what TikTok is. It's 60 seconds, and you got to scream your points and get a bite in, a sound bite, and then go. So,
Right.
yeah. What have you seen with, I'll say this. One of the things I really appreciate about Goshen schools, this is what I saw from, don't know who it was. I went to a Rotary meeting, and someone gave a presentation, and they did a celebration. So for kids who get accepted at colleges on scholarships for sports, they do a whole celebration. You know, you choose what school you're going to, you're this draft pick, everyone's excited about it. Goshen did that for kids who got internships, not to college, but to like a construction company and things like that. Like, there's a emphasis on, I mean, we live in a manufacturing hub.
Right.
And so Goshen Schools has done things to like celebrate the fact that it's not right or wrong if you go to college, but why are we only celebrating kids who are going to college?
Right.
Why not celebrate kids who decide to be electricians and construction management and things like that? And so
Right.
I thought that was such a cool thing. And I know in the new school that was built over on Green Road that there's a whole like manufacturing focus there too. Like for kids to get kind of interested in 5th and 6th grade to learn about CNC stuff and printers and things like that. And like, I think that's forward thinking, especially in the place we're living.
Right.
You know, so I'm thankful for things like that. Like,
Right. We want to believe, and we're not perfect, but we're really trying very hard to allow the students to go wherever they want to go, and prepare them to whatever their goals and ambitions are. If you want to go to Harvard, Yale, Goshen Community Schools can prepare you for that.
yeah.
If you want to go to community college, Ivy Tech, get an associate's, Goshen Community Schools can prepare you for that.
Yeah.
You want to graduate from high school and jump to a good paying job with some skills and certificates, that's what we're striving for.
Yeah.
We don't minimize anybody's abilities. We're very inclusive.
Yeah.
And I think we're a better district for that. I tell people I've met, because I'm a board member, I go to board meetings in the state of Indiana and meet board members from other districts around the state. And when I tell our story, they're fascinated by it, and they have heard of Goshen Community Schools. We have an awesome marching band.
Oh, yeah.
We have a great orchestra. The arts are second to none. So people from South Bend, Penn High School, when they think about Goshen, they think about an exceptional district. And when you think about the demographics, people say, well, it's the immigrants who are challenging and very challenged students, and that's why we don't have top-notch students, for example.
Right. Yeah, top of the line math or top of the line reading.
Right.
I remember hearing something about that.
Yeah, it was like Goshen has never been that type of city.
Right.
There's been the neighborhood associations.
Yeah.
You have for many, many years, many decades before the Latinos ever arrived to Goshen, you had the have and the have-nots.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, what are you talking about?
Right. It's not a immigrant thing.
Yeah. It's like Goshen was never Carmel. You have a Carmel.
Yeah.
It's like it's not a full of millionaires.
They went viral because they did a TikTok where they walked around and showed their high school. I don't know if you saw that TikTok. It was
my daughter
crazy.
told me.
Yeah, it was just wild.
It's a very rich district.
Here is the hallway that we lined with diamonds.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you need a high school lined with diamonds?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. It's crazy wealthy.
Yeah.
And we go to toe with districts like that in the arts.
Wow.
So it's always interesting to me. They're like trying to we were better off without the immigrant. No, we were not. We were not doing well with the low income in our city
Prior to immigrants.
prior to that.
Yeah.
So and when it was like 99% white,
Right.
we have always been a manufacturing community.
Yeah.
That's who we are. It's the makeup of our city. So when I tell them it's not about, you just change probably the ethnicity of people, but they're still a working class, So we're doing things that will help
empower them.
and do upper mobility.
Yeah.
Mobility.
Mm-hmm.
Can't say it.
It's the brew dog.
Mobility. There you go. It's
The brew dog.
the Pierre.
But I think that's so helpful too, because like if you can come out of high school and get a good job, and you come from almost nothing, that is huge.
Yeah.
It gives you independence, it gives you ability to, to thrive
Yeah.
and make decisions. And if you make a mistake, it's not detrimental because you've got skills that you learned from high school. Yeah. That's awesome.
We're increasing the dual credit so you can graduate with a lot more college credits from Goshen.
That's cool.
No, if I say, and this is people think, oh, you're a school board member. Of course you're going to say this.
Yeah.
Like the haters, I was going to say something else, but the haters. The haters like, nah, you're just saying that. But, I was born in Mexico City. I grew up in Chicago. I lived in Harrisonburg, Virginia. I lived in Texas. I visited different states. I've been overseas. I lived in Spain. And I can tell you that given our demographics, who we are as people in Goshen, our school system is second to none, and I believe that very strongly. We can get a student who comes to first grade with zero knowledge, and I've seen it happen. Shout out to the Barahona family. I've seen it happen. They come to first grade with no knowledge of the English language, and they graduate with full academic right to Purdue University.
Wow.
Full right, academically strong.
Wow.
So that's a story that it's not tall.
Yeah. It's not told, but it also isn't. It's happening all the time here.
Yes.
Right. But we're not listening about that. Yeah. That's fascinating. That is cool. That's cool. And that's a big learning curve. That's a different, it's not an easy thing to hit. It's a change up, it's like not everyone's dealing with that. That's cool that Goshen's doing that. I have a question for you that maybe is a little bit different of a shift, but still along the same lines. So from 1990 till 2008, when did the shift of the Latino community start coming into Goshen? What would you say is kind of like the timeline of all of that? Because I'm sure when you moved back in 2008, it was drastically different.
Well, it happened as soon as I left.
Okay.
Really. So I graduated in 1992. Let me see. Yep. 1992. So I started graduate work in 93. So I left in 92, in the late 90s, early 2000s. So a huge boom. The number of Latinos moving into Goshen, into this area, just skyrocketed.
Wow.
And in 2008, when we moved here, Goshen Community Schools was still adjusting to all of that. And when I got involved with La Casa and became a community organizer, I got to see, I tell people, I got to see the good, the bad, and the ugly of Goshen residents, you know. And some people were still grieving the change, like grieving the loss of the city that they once knew, because it changed too fast, too quickly for them. But it just happened in the late 90s, early 2000s. So by the time I getting into in 2008, most of the change had already happened.
Yeah. My parents moved here when I think it was 94 or 95. And one of my earliest memories of being in Goshen was running around with the neighborhood kids. They're pretty much all Latino. I didn't know they were Latino when I was 5. They were just my neighbor friends. You know what I mean? That's what it was. So that does sync up. When you're like, 3, 4, 5 years old, you don't realize what the whole population is. You're just growing up. So I've always kind of wondered when that transition happened, what that was. And so when you had said you came here and there wasn't any Latinos, that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it happened to LFS.
Yeah.
I probably need to use the bathroom.
Okay, let's pause and then we'll come back.
All right.
Cool. And we're back.
Good.
That's quick. That's super quick. Yeah. That's good stuff. Yeah, I totally forget what we were talking about. I do have a different question that I was thinking about. So, we talked about you went to school, got your Master of Divinity, you were a pastor. Where are you at now? Like, what's your thought process on religion and church and pastoral? Where are you at in your life?
That's a very good question. I have learned to value the journey of everyone,
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say anything negative about anybody's religion. I believe that at times in history, religion has played a very important part in societies. In America, they created schools and universities.
Yeah. Yeah, Yale, Harvard, weren't they like seminaries?
Yep.
That's what they started out as.
Yep. So, like anything, though, you always have this pendulum of good and bad, and people have used religion in a negative way to justify, in the same token, they created universities, but also justify slavery, It's just at the same time. So it is part of history. It is part of who we are. Personally, I have issues with organized religion now. Like, I don't see organized religion doing the things that make an impact in people's lives. Almost feels like a club.
Yeah, country club.
It's a country club.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're part of here? Yeah. We'll do business with you, and your kids can go there. And
Yeah. And so, and I'm not going to, name any churches or anything. I'm just saying in the evangelical, or not necessarily evangelical, just Christianity in America, it's very iffy to me because of the state of our society. The people who are currently creating more chaos than good are the people that say they're followers of Jesus Christ. There's more of that negative than positive. I know there are churches who are doing great things with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and trying to dismantle racism and being very social conscious and all that stuff. But politically, the scene doesn't look good. Christianity Today wrote an article when Donald Trump became president, and it's like, I remember reading the article that the soul of the evangelical world has lost its soul. I think it was the title of the article. And being a graduate of Trinity Evangelical Divinity School, we were talking about that way back then. That the evangelical world, again, it was an evangelical seminary, connected to the evangelical free churches of the United States. So it's like they were talking all about evangelicals. It's that world. Yeah. But they were saying they were very concerned about the nationalism of the evangelical world. They were not global minded. There was more nationalistic, capitalistic, materialistic minded.
Yeah. Well, I've seen that played out. It's pretty interesting. I wonder if some of the bad that we're seeing from the people who are saying, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, I wonder if some of that is accentuated because of social media. Like, I see a lot of bad things all the time, but that's because that's what gets viewed.
Right.
And then, I just, when the whole Roe versus Wade stuff was happening maybe a year ago, everywhere in social media, everyone's talking about it. It's everything everyone's talking about. But then when I went to the store, when I talked to people in real life, we were having normal conversations. When you come back to reality, it was still something that people were talking about, but it wasn't every conversation, everything. But when I looked at social media, all I saw was post after post after post after post after post. That's anything anyone was talking about online. So I wonder if, it's interesting because I'm getting to the point, because internet really started coming about when I was younger. I mean, I remember a time before internet, and I remember a time during dial-up, and I remember a time after. Similar for you, there was no internet, and now we have it. It's a part of our life. And I'm really trying to start, and especially with AI and things that are coming with that stuff. What is reality?
Right.
I don't know anymore. I'm starting to okay, well, some of the stuff is being told to me. Some of the stuff I'm seeing. It's different when you're on a board for a school and you're hearing that. But I think they're also getting their information from the internet. So what's that being regurgitated out? Is that reality too? It's interesting, but you do have to disconnect from social media.
Yeah. What is reality? That's another. that's a heavy question.
Yeah. Well, I still want to know, where are you at when your faith journey?
I would consider myself more of a spiritual person.
Okay.
I meditate.
Yeah.
Almost on a daily basis, especially on Sunday. I don't know why, because maybe because I used to go to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
I haven't found a church community or a faith-based community. I'm far more open to learning from other faiths. I think my experience with the ecumenical world really shaped me, realizing how ignorant I was about Islam and Judaism and Hinduism, and just spiritual people around and different worldviews. I often ponder the fact that I could be Muslim, but I was born in the West. I was born in Christian countries.
Yeah.
And how much of that played into my belief system? It's just de facto, not necessarily because I chose it, because that's the
you're here in this spot. This was part of what it is.
That's what I was presented. So I want to remove myself a little bit from that and say, hey, the world is a lot smaller now. I can learn from people. There are things that I've meditated even on Greek philosophers. I read Plato and Socrates again and meditated on that. They were spiritual people.
Yeah.
Philosophy. You know what that means. The study of the spirit. Philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So you're then, and they're taking what is the spirit to the next level, and then what's it like for you to meditate? So just run me through, like, what is that? What do you do? Let's say on Sunday. You go on Sunday. What does that look like when you meditate? Do you just, when I've meditated, I'm sitting there and just literally, anytime I have a thought, I'm taking that thought and saying, "Go away, go away." That's me when I meditate. What is it for you when you meditate?
See, on Sundays, and this has happened in the last 5 years. I want to wake up a little later, but it doesn't happen, right? I just, by 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm up. And my routine has been, it's like get a cup of coffee, sit in my living room. I'm not quite awake, not quite awake. My mind is not wandering. And, I used to have an app, but, got rid of the app because I think it was very one-sided.
Yep.
And what I like to do, or what I did when, for example, with Greek original philosophers, is just to read a phrase, read a thought, a quote, and just think about all that I know of that. Like the enemy. Who's your enemy? Like I kept going back to that enemy because who is really our enemy? No one is our enemy.
Yeah.
It is a perceived thing. It might be somebody that you just have a disagreement with. But anyway, who's your friend? Who's your enemy? Kind of thing. And then I just close my eyes. I look at the meaning of the word. It helps to be bilingual, multilingual, because you have different images of the same word.
Yeah.
And
it's like a quarter, right? We say a quarter has multiple faces.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's heads or tails, but it's a quarter.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a routine that I do. I don't do it every morning because of sometimes I'm rushing out, but it's a routine of sitting there and let my quiet my mind, quiet my spirit, drinking coffee because I'm not fully awake. My mind's still in that half sleep mode.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's like a whole hour. And I'm just full, I'm full of thoughts, have cried, just sitting there meditating, and just feeling full.
Wow.
Like I have encounter the spirits of the person who wrote the quote, being there. And I think about people, think about what I do.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And maybe because I'm naturally a relational person, because I consider myself a spiritual being, sensitive, whatever you want to call it, doesn't take too much. And I like to do it in the mornings because, like I said, it's like my quiet time. Everything, especially on Sunday mornings, like nobody's around. I'm not going to get a phone call. Nobody's going to interrupt me. So that's how I meditate. I've been surprised how quickly I go to that meditation stage, if you will. I want to believe that it's partially because I'm half asleep
Right.
and drinking coffee, and my mind is not wandering. It's not full of stuff.
Right.
Because when you
To-do lists and checklists and, oh, I got to call this person. Oh, I got to think about that. Or, yeah, I got to do, what's lunch? You know,
Right.
like all those things you're thinking about all the time anyways.
like Monday morning would be impossible.
Right.
That's my hardest time to meditate because I'm thinking about the week, thinking about the day, my work day.
Yeah.
My mind just like, don't forget this, don't forget that.
Right.
Do this and do that. But yeah, it's a very good exercise that I have done. Oh, I don't know, for a long time.
Did you do it while you were in the church too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's one of the things that maybe the clergy can relate to this. I don't know if I'm gonna destroy the image of the minister and the clergy for people, but sometimes the work is so stinking hard that and this is part of the problem of being a relational people. Most pastors, ministers, clergy are relational people.
Yeah. You're actually like accepting some of that burden,
Right.
emotionally and relationally, while they're telling you the hardships they're going through. You, whether you want to or not, you're taking on.
Right. It's like you learn how to differentiate yourself because your empathy is so high that you take into yourself things that doesn't necessarily belong to you, but it's to you, but you can't help yourself.
Right.
But when I did poorly, I have to say, with self-care. When I was pastoring, I burned out.
Oh yeah.
Burnout and felt very distant to my creator
Yeah.
as a pastor, and
Wow.
and so it's a thing, and unless you've been a minister for a while, you might not believe it, but
No, I think that is a real thing. And I think sometimes people are just doing it because it's the motions that need to be done too. Like, this is a role I have to play. Whether you feel connected or not, you are put in this position. You have to do it. That would burn me out too.
yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
Like, there's something about doing something with passion. You almost feel full of energy. Doesn't matter how hard you go. You know what? Then there's another thing where you're like, I have to do this because this is what I'm supposed to do. That starts to kill you.
yeah.
does.
I've heard people, I was part of an ecumenical group in Houston. I've heard people that's why what people call the high church, Methodists, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, Catholics, that's why they put the rope on. It's like, this is Jose,
Yep.
regular guy. You going to go and do a service, you put a rope on.
Yep.
You embodied the spiritual leader for that community. And so
It's like
it's
a
no longer
transition.
you necessarily. Yeah,
It's a transition.
it's a transition thing. You put that thing on, and not necessarily play a role, but you go to work. Like the police officer puts a uniform on, the soldier puts the uniform on,
The teacher.
the teacher puts it. Yep, and that and sometimes you don't want to, but hey, that's what the community needs.
Yeah. That's interesting. That is a really deliberate delineation of this and then this. I see that. Yeah. That's fascinating. I got a question for you, too. I'm not Mennonite, so I didn't grow up in Mennonite, though I grew up around the Mennonites because you live in Goshen.
Right.
What is... So I don't know a ton about Mennonite church, but when you're talking a little bit about spirituality, is that in the Mennonite church, or have you kind of discovered this outside of the Mennonite church? So I also will say this: I believe in spirituality. I've really had like feelings of things. I've even heard like, hey, go do this. And I've done it. And then I got like, I've had multiple times where I've like, I was walking past someone and like, hey, you need to go help that person. There's a real clear like thought that came into my head that was not my own thought. And I went and did it. And I realized, oh, this is a spiritual thing. That was a spiritual thing. So I just wonder if that is part of the Mennonite church at all, or from what you've been in it, or this kind of journey on spirituality is almost a little bit more outside of the Mennonite church.
It is a little bit outside the Mennonite church. When I studied Anabaptist theology, early Anabaptists, play around with spirituality and being charismatic, and it backfired. We got a little crazy.
Yeah,
got a little crazy with the movement of the Spirit. Like getting naked and praising God. Being like children. It got a little crazy here and there in the early Anabaptist movements. So they focus a lot on the scriptures. And
it's safe there.
It's safe there.
That makes sense.
It's safe there. It's something that everybody can agree. The more, I guess, spirituality happens in community, decision making happens in community because the Spirit is in the community. Like the Spirit is everybody, believers' church. Like the Spirit, God, it's everybody. You don't necessarily need a mediator like a priest or a pastor. It's
connected. Anyone can access it.
Yep. But decision making is the Spirit is it's in a community, not necessarily an individual. So the people who in the Mennonite church tend to be more charismatic we're seen with suspicious. Some type of of suspicion. I don't know how it is today. I think it depends. Mennonites have divided so much and have tapped into different beliefs. There's Mennonites are very fundamentalist.
Oh yeah,
and
in our community.
Yeah. And evangelicals or liberals. They're all over the spectrum. Really,
it's fractured out. It's fractured out so far.
Yeah.
The different things,
Yeah. And so it's, to speak about one Mennonite, there's always been kind of charismatic spiritual wing of every movement, but it's usually small. I learned about the mystics through my own study when I was in seminary about John of the Cross, for example, or Teresa de Avila. They were Catholic priests, and it just resonated with me. Some of their journey, embracing the dark. It's some of it was a little dangerous, kind of like complete surrender and embracing the darkness, and allowing yourself to be a vessel, kind of thing. Like, and those mystics of the Catholic Church, they practice what they preach. Man, they're people that wrote a lot for highly educated people, but at the same time, at the same token, isolated themselves for decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
To have that experience or experiences.
Yeah.
They walk the walk and talk the talk, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's it's interesting because you think church history coming from an evangelical worldview, and you're like, oh, Martin Luther, and then church starts. But it really is like Jesus dies, church starts.
Mm-hmm.
There's 1,500 years that I don't think about
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's interesting when you start looking at the full picture, because spirituality has been woven through that for a long time, and now we're 2,000 years later, and we're still trying to figure it out. You know.
But the thing is that the mystics, for example, they're Muslim mystics. You read about Rumi, for example. And I encourage people. It's like there were mystics almost from every religion.
Yeah.
And the things that they say, I mean, I still practice. I'm still putting stuff on Facebook what I read about Rumi, and things that resonate my spirit with his thoughts and mine. And prior to that, to them, outside Buddhism, if people have wrote about Buddha, and as far as I know, Buddha was not a heavy person. He was a regular guy.
Yeah.
Like Jesus probably didn't have a beard and he wasn't blonde, but
Right. No, he wasn't blonde? Wait, you're saying he's from the Middle East and he wasn't blonde?
All right.
Okay.
It's like the images that we have about people is, like the real.
Wait, you're saying angels aren't little boys?
Right, no, let's not go there. But it is fascinating. To me, it's like if I break it down, it's like we are just humans,
Yeah.
And when you had asked me earlier about where am I now, it's like if I look at human beings, I think we all want the same things. Be happy, have stability, live in peace. People think that we don't, everyone just doesn't want a complicated life.
Right.
Everybody wants the best for their own family, their own people.
Yeah.
Loved and be loved.
Yeah.
It's not complicated, the connections that we can make with one another. Somebody when you read about Eastern philosophies, Eastern religion, they talk about love being kind of like a thing that everyone has the same love.
Yeah.
It's like the only reason that you want to be loved and be loved is because I have the same desire, and that's one thing. So it's a way of saying that we are all one.
Yeah.
We are all one.
We have love and we want love.
Yep.
That's what makes us human.
And that love is not only the thing that connects us, but the thing that makes us all one. Kind of like the original gene that created humans, if you will.
Yeah, that's the unifying thread that ties us all together.
Like like love, the feeling of love, being loved is actually a gene that we all carry. Yeah. So we're all one. Kind of like, we're all part of the human race, and there's no races, but just the human race.
Yeah. There's different types, but when you look at humans across the board, we're all pretty similar. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like some of us are 700 feet tall and have 4 heads, right? And 17 feet. We have a unifying thing. Yeah. That's really fascinating. Yeah. No, I wondered because I didn't realize that you had a Master of Divinity. I had not known your previous story as much as we've talked.
Yeah.
It's been kind of cool to uncover that. And so, it's fascinating. Fascinating to hear where you started at Goshen. When you came back to Goshen, it's like 2 different worlds in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I already feel like I have lived a full life, and I have had experiences that most people don't get. When we went to Los Angeles, I was floored that one of the people that went with us had never flown,
That was wild.
have never been, outside the Midwest,
Yeah.
outside Goshen, almost like rarely outside Goshen, let alone getting on a plane and
Going to a totally different place.
Yep.
Yeah, that is wild. To LA, and we were downtown LA. And we did like the Korean town. Do you remember going to
Yeah.
Korean town? And that was so cool.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap it up. I gotta go to the bathroom, and we're an hour and a half in. So let's wrap it up if that's cool.
Sure.
Dude, Jose, thanks for coming on and talking.
Oh, no problem.
I'm so thankful you're here in Goshen. I am very thankful. I'm glad we've connected.
Yeah.
And, you're doing great things, man.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Yeah.
Where can people find you if they want to reach out or plug anything you want to?
Well, if they want to reach out to me, just go to the website of Goshen Community Schools.
Okay.
And look at the boards, and you'll find my information there. It's you send me an email. I don't know how far the podcast goes, but hey, if you speak Spanish, English, I do okay with French.
He just knows the bad ones.
I'm not super good. But, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have or to learn more about what I'm doing here. It's a ride, bro.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
And congratulations, you're going to have a kid.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just let everybody know.
That's okay. That's good. I posted it on Facebook, so you should have saw. Or no, I think it was Instagram. I don't know. It's here. It's real. She's super pregnant. They knew, so that's good.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm ready to step into fatherhood. I'm excited.
You'll do okay.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's going to be okay. You're awesome people.
Thanks, Jose, man. This has been great. This has been so good.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next Timonspodcast. Peace.